This is Adjuster Stories brought to you by Adjuster TV and Veteran Adjusting School. And now your host, Guy Grant.
Hey, Justin. How are you, man?
Going on?
Not too much.
Good.
Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to Adjuster Stories with Guy Grant. I'm here today with Justin. Were you in the last class or second to the last?
Second to last. Yep.
Second to the
45.
last class. I'll tell you what, I was just talking to somebody else a couple hours ago, and they came through in 2022. And when we decided to close the school, the last 5 classes were awesome.
Yeah.
The 38 before, some of them were good and some of them weren't so good.
We
But I
probably
was,
filtered it a little bit better.
yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because I was talking to this lady's name's Nora, and came through in 2022. And after we got done, she said, "So, how many people in my class are still adjusting?" So I went up on the wall of fame, that I got, and I looked, and I'm like, "Nora, you're the only one in that class." And
Wow.
it brought me back to how hard it was for us if somebody didn't know how to use a computer, or if somebody didn't have the personality that once you get done here, we're just giving you the basics and the foundation. If you're not hustling to get work, then work's not going to come. Just because you send an email out to somebody, they're not going to respond to you. So
Right.
yeah, so I love doing these kind of things with you guys. You guys have such great stories to tell, and I just thank you for doing this. And
No, it's been
I think this would be a good one because I talk to your ass on the phone a lot. So pretty much all the
somebody,
stories I get. So
somebody told me I bring out the crazies, and it's like, oh, I feel it. And especially this last week. This last week has just been a pain. I think I've run since the 5th of March, I've ran 30 claims with 2 different firms. Today's what, the 15th. So I've been, same thing with the fourth day desk day or third day desk day, just depends on when the turnaround time is that the carrier expects. But 30 claims and 28 of them have had a contractor. And of those 28, they call themselves contractors. They just, boy,
right,
they're salesmen. They're just
right.
salesmen. There's
We're
good
gonna
contractors. There's
we're,
great
we're
contractors.
gonna get into contractors in a second, but I want everybody that's watching or listening to this thing to know, where do you live?
Oh, I'm in Coppers Cove, Texas.
So
So
you're
right outside of
literally in
Columbia.
the middle of freaking Texas where there's a
Yep.
million adjusters,
Mhm.
and you ran, what'd you say, 30 claims in the last 2 weeks?
Yes.
There's got to
Yep.
be a reason for that, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. So I'm turning in files, number one, and number two, they're legible. They make sense. Um,
You're
my
following
manager
you're following the Voss
following the
process.
process. That's
You're
right.
following the process.
And I've been, man, I was rusty. And I found that out when a couple files got kicked back and a reviewer called me. He's like, what the hell? It wasn't bad, but he was like, okay, you got a photo of this slope. And there's 3 shingles missing, but you didn't write for it. And then you've got a photo of the separate slope and you're writing for the full slope, which is fine. But what about this over here? I'm like, you know what? That's funny. We talked about it for a bit, and he said he watches these. He's going to be watching this one. He said, "You got to follow the process, man." Like, and I laughed. It was a good convo. I was like, you know what? You're right. My apologies, and guess what? I fixed it. He had me take some stuff off, add some stuff, and it was, not perfect over here, but
Well, yeah, but the whole idea of your photo reports
Mhm.
flow with your estimate, flow with your written report is so critical in this business. And it's easy for him to call you up and laugh at you
Hmm.
on the times you don't,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Because prior to that, I mean, he's expecting now you're going to turn in this product and this is what it's going to look like all the time. And you're going to follow this process every single time you do this, your claims.
Yeah,
So,
he ended that conversation with, management just needs to send me the good ones, like you. So, um, there's a lot of managers and reviewers that I know that are watching this, so I'm gonna be calling them out too.
right? Right.
But it's
So
good.
we're gonna get to the contractor thing, and if I forget
Yeah.
in a few minutes, remind me, right?
Oh,
But one of the things I want everybody to know about you in particular, um, was you were really into it when you came to the school.
I quit a
You-
career.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You didn't like what you were doing prior.
Mhm.
You were what? You were a mailman or something like that.
Yeah. And
But
I
you
was running
right, you
routes.
didn't like what you were doing prior, and you were committed to changing your life.
Mhm.
And as freaking crazy as you are, and all the rest of the stuff, that we went through in class and everything, which is all good because I recognize you and me, right?
Mhm.
Um, but you knew this is what you wanted to do.
Right.
And when you left the school, I'll never forget it. Maybe how long was it before you went to Kentucky? Couple weeks or something,
Yeah. Couple weeks. I graduated
right?
the 20,000 Kentucky on the 15th of May.
Right. So I remember you calling me up and saying, "I'm moving to Kentucky," and I'm like, "Nah, dude, don't freaking move to Kentucky. Yeah, like take the claims and go stay in a hotel somewhere or Airbnb." And you're like, "Nope, I'm moving to Kentucky. They
I
told
did
me
move.
there's going to be so much work in Kentucky. I'm going to be so busy." I'm like, "Dude, don't move to Kentucky." And you
They
moved
did
to
not
Kentucky.
lie. I was busy, but
How
I
long were
did
you there?
assign 2 weeks. I was
Really?
I was there from May 15th. I signed my lease May 15th for 6 months. And June 8th, paid my last month's rent and I left. And it wasn't because there was no work. It was because of conflict with the firm
Yeah.
that was intense. And they held the fact that I had moved. I was going to move my family. We've been wanting to Kentucky. Um, they held it over my head that if you don't do this right, you're not, and I quote, if you don't do what we tell you, you're really not in a position to argue with us.
Yeah. Because they knew you
Okay.
committed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I packed up and left. I'm not going to have
Well, that
that.
those guys are no longer a partner, but we won't even go there. But
Nope.
but but part of that too was they were asking you to not follow the boss process,
Big time.
right? We
Big
don't
time.
like it. And you're like, well, this is the way I'm trained. This is the way I do it. And
Everything was wrong. It
yeah,
was all wrong. Everything was
yeah,
wrong. Photo descriptions, too descriptive in my photos.
right?
Um, Too descriptive in my photos got me. There was other things, but they wanted a, a plethora of unnecessary photos.
Yeah,
And I don't mean that non-damaged photos are unnecessary, but they wanted, I want to say at least 8 pictures per room in non-damaged
just
rooms.
rooms. Yeah, yeah,
I don't, and they pay, they were not paying enough for me to be at an inspection for 2 hours
yeah,
for a non-damage claim,
yeah.
you know? And
So 2 weeks.
mhm.
Never listened. Nobody ever listens to me,
I
right?
never, not one
You're
time.
the one that made the meme for Guy Grand. Nobody ever
I
listened.
did.
And then you went back to Texas.
Mm.
And then how long was it before you got to get on and
I wasn't even back in Texas. I made a phone call. I was on the road and the firm, my primary firm, they know who they are. I called the 800 number and dispatch sent me, they said, "What's your exact net?" And they sent me like 45 claims, and I was driving still. I was like, "Oh, snap."
driving
So
back?
hadn't even onboarded, no guidelines.
And
We got,
that's because they knew you came from us too, though, right?
that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so got back and immediately started because we had the temple. Um, Temple tornado outbreak in the hailstorm, 3-inch hail, six tornadoes.
Right.
It was a whole mess.
Right.
And that happened, that outbreak literally happened the day I signed my lease in Kentucky. So, oh, it's funny how the world
Wow.
works, you know?
Wow.
But
Yeah, and it's so funny because you hear adjusters, on the Facebook pages and everything saying, "How come I can't get any work? How come there's no work?" And everybody's like, "Well, because there's too many people in Texas and there's a million adjusters in Texas." And it isn't about that. It's about your work product.
or I'm not gonna purchase my exact net subscription until I have claims. Okay.
Right?
That's a big one. I see it all the time, and I understand it's expensive. It's very expensive, but you're literally not going to get claims if you don't have the proper subscriptions. That's the good thing about, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the companies, but the other software is, it's per claim, so it definitely helps. But the expensive one, like right now, it's pretty dry at the beginning of March, and my subscription came to an end. I had zero claims, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna purchase the 1 month, get some claims, and then go from there because I don't know how the season's gonna start. I'm in Texas,
Right.
so didn't know how it was gonna go. Um, but it's working out pretty
Did you
well, I
did
think.
you go
All
ahead and
in.
pay did you go ahead and pay the rest of it for the year now?
I'm gonna wait till it comes to the end in April and then purchase the year. And they said that they would give me um
The credit
compensate.
for it.
Yeah, credit, a little bit of it. It's not the full credit, but a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's good. But
Cool.
yeah, if you don't have the subscription, you're hello.
Right. Right.
Do you have a ladder? Like, are you gonna be,
No,
come
I'm
on.
not going to spend any money on my career until you give me some claims.
It's hard to
Yeah.
start from
Well,
zero.
I talk about this on these all the time that, guys go out and they get a license and they think they're an adjuster. They're just not an adjuster,
Mhm.
and you can go do a 1 week class here or a 1 week class there or get the mobile app, the what do they call it? The training program. That's
Yeah,
why we gave all of you guys a full year subscription with our $22,000 that we charged.
right.
Was right because I
Thank
knew I
you.
knew I knew that, and we can say Exactimate because we're not talking bad about them, but I knew Exactimate had so much that you could not get with the training program.
No. Yeah,
You
there's
I had to
mm,
teach you how to download price lists for where you are, when you are, all the rest of those things. And they just don't come, with a guy that goes to a 3-day course in Lubbock and decides he's going to be an adjuster.
yeah, $5,000 by the way for
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And then you go to another one for 3,500, and then you go to
Yep.
another one for 3 grand. And now you just spent 22 grand and you could have just come to the school.
Oh,
Yeah.
right?
Well, which they can't anymore, right?
Yeah.
But there are
Yeah,
other things that are out there. But the big thing I think for anybody that's listening to this, especially the new guys, is you got to you got to become educated. You have to do as much as you can. You have to research as much as you can. You can't just read a paper and say you know it. You've got to write it down and then put it to practical application use, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Facebook's great. There was somebody complaining that there weren't courses or something that he couldn't get qualified enough. And I was like, buddy, there's about five major firms that get you major qualifications. Your red license, I won't say names, everybody knows what
yeah,
I mean. TWIA for the state of Texas. They've got all of these that you can get. And no, you're not gonna, if you don't have a big school under you or recommendations, then no, you're not gonna be starting off with dailies because those are for the local adjusters that have been around. You're gonna have to wait for a storm. It's unfortunate. You're gonna have to wait for
yeah.
something. But if you don't have those free, first of all, certifications from these companies, you're not going to have much.
Why are they going
But
to deploy you if you don't have TWIA in Texas?
you know,
Right.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't have Twitter in Texas, but I haven't needed it either. I'm gonna get that here real quick because we got a buddy in my class that he told me how it went, Bobby, how it went down there running those claims, and he made he did good. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll get that. You
Oh,
know,
maybe I'll do that too. Well, the
yeah,
other one, once you've run some claims, getting your Hague certification for roof,
yeah,
get whatever certifications you can get, um, are just beneficial when you're actually applying. And the company that helps you get certified for TWIA may not be the company you work for,
right. It's
but there's
a
a lot of different
certification.
companies that have TWIA account.
Yeah, it's across the board.
Yeah,
So, you know.
exactly.
It's a
Exactly.
certification. It's same thing with pretty much any other certification. It's for the carrier.
Yeah.
It's not for the firm. People and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
But that's new information for some people listening, and it's good
Well,
info.
yeah, and the whole idea that this is 100,000 plus a year job,
Mm.
and you're going to get a $300 license and then wait around for somebody to give you a $100,000 a year job is kind of, I don't know what the word I want to use is, but certainly not thinking through the process, right? If you're not educated, you're not trained, why would I give you a $100,000 a year job? Right. And I think again, like on those Facebook pages and stuff, you get these guys that are like, I've been out here for 5 years and I ran these three storms and I made this 100,000, and they act like they know what they're talking about, but they still don't know how to sketch a roof. They have to get an eagle view on every one of them. They
Yep.
won't climb a 8, 12, 10, 12 pitch roof because they have to have a ladder assist.
Yep.
And, it's those kind of things. I think you and I talked about this once, but it's those kind of things are the reason that the insurance companies are lowering their fee schedules.
Yep.
If on 60% of my claims, I have to send out a $250 ladder assist, why the hell would I pay the adjuster? And so guys like you who climb and me who climbed were basically penalized. But
Yeah.
if we know our
Yeah.
job, we just do more claims and we still make money.
There's I got a manager. Love him. He's listening. I was on I was on a roof last week, and it wasn't for his carrier. It's a different carrier. It was a 1012. True two story 1012, windy day, 20-year-old roof, and it was 1 in the afternoon. It got hot, and he had ended up calling me. And I said, what would you do if I told you I was doing all of this right now and I can't even hook my goat up and I'm just kind of walking it? And he goes, I'd call you a real adjuster. He's like, yeah, welcome. I'm
Right?
like, dude, I'm shaking up here. Like, and he goes, well, says come on, like, and don't get hurt, be careful. But there's on a hip roof like that, there's, sometimes you can't hook it. There's nowhere to put safety gear. And that's why there's other ways to do inspections. Man, I probably shouldn't have been up there like that.
Well, no, what's interesting because I just literally 2 hours ago when I was talking to Nora, the other adjuster I was just talking to, she lives up in North Dakota,
Yep.
right? And there's lots of 10, 12 because of the snow loads, right? And lots of two-story roofs back there. And she said there are times, she has a 28-foot extension ladder, she has a go. And she said there are times I have to measure or I have to do my test square from the eaves.
Yeah.
So I set my ladder up, I do this 5 foot by 5 foot section, and then I move
Yep.
my ladder and I do this 10 foot by 5 foot section, and I move my ladder again because if there's hail on that roof, you're going to see it on the eaves
Yep.
as well as you're going to see it in the middle of the thing.
What's amazing about that is if people would read their guidelines, it's actually, and a lot of the guidelines describes how to measure and do a test wear from the eaves.
Yeah.
But they're going to get ladder assist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you set it up on a 512 pitch roof and you do that, they're probably going to wonder about you.
No,
But
no, yeah,
your
no,
two
big time.
stories on a 1012, that's not, I'm, I hated climbing those for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, you got to be careful. And for like me, I'm terrified of heights. So um, I'm up there and any little wind movement, I don't freeze up, but I start shaking. I'm like, oh boy, So yeah, I'll just do it from the eve.
Yeah.
But
Got to pay attention.
it is what it is. It's just sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But I don't think I've ever had, no, I know I've never had a ladder assist, and I've always been able to turn in a good report. Um, because there's ways to do it because I don't know, adjusting's been around how long? This is nothing new. So
Dude, I they didn't have ladder assists in my day, and they
exactly.
didn't pay us unless we had a photograph from the ridge showing our ladder on that freaking claim.
Yep.
So they didn't care how we got up there, double pulls, crawling on our bellies, whatever it was, but we had to have a photograph from the top looking down.
There are firms that will, in their guidelines, will not allow you to double pull. In fact, that was the
Will not
one
allow you to what? Climb on the
double pull,
do a
double
double pull.
pull.
Yes, I know that.
I can see why, because if you do it wrong, let's say you're not buying the roof, which you don't know until you get up there, right? But you could be damaging the roof by double pulling.
Yeah,
But what's ladder assist going to do when they come out?
they're gonna
They're
double.
going to double pull.
Yeah, exactly.
But it just puts it on them. And
Well,
that company,
it's a safety issue.
yeah.
It's a safety issue, and I get that. But you know what? If you have a job that's going to pay you 100,000+ a year, and that job requires that you climb on top of a roof, then don't get in the freaking business if you're not going to go climb on a roof. I don't know what else to say about that,
Well, I'll just use a drum.
you know? And again, I think so many people get a license because they read about it, but they don't read all of these intricate things that we're talking about, what it takes. All the time spent on a computer is twice as much as the time spent climbing a roof, but you got to
Nobody
climb the
tells them.
roof.
And that's the thing is they don't get told either.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
get told until they find out, like, oh, wait a minute.
Well, and then they've gone and they've spent money and then
Hmm.
because they think they're going to do it. And my cousin Jim Bob is, and he's a dumbass, but he can do it, so I can do it. And then when it really comes down to it, then, you know, what do? They turn in less than par. I was going to say the S word, but a less than par claim. And then the file reviewer sitting on that other side has to try to decipher what this person was thinking. And they don't label their photos and they don't do anything else. And then they just think that they're an adjuster. I think I told you guys this in class, but I tell a lot of people this, that if you go out to a hurricane and they give you 30 claims and you turn all 30 of those claims in and you never get one kickback, you are not a good adjuster
Yeah, they're just
because
they're
somebody
just
had to
cycling it
fix
through.
every one of your 30 claims and they realized that it was easier to fix your claim than it was to tell you that you sucked.
Yep.
But if you got 12 of them kicked back, that company was saying, you know what? You could be a good adjuster, and I want you to be a good adjuster. So I'm going to tell you what you need to do to be a good adjuster. So the fact that you got 12 of 30 claims kicked back is probably says more about who you are and what you could be as an adjuster than I didn't get any claims kicked back. Look at me.
Yep. And every firm's different. I've been with some that didn't kick any back, and I was like, cool. But then you can see an exact analysis where everything was fixed or something was fixed. I was missing something. I'll email. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Why are because I want to make it, I'm real, what is it? Picky on my files, but I don't like turning in garbage. So if I know I'm doing something wrong, I want to know what I'm doing wrong so I can fix it, right? So I'll email and be like, What happened? Well, you missed this. Oh, I've been doing that wrong for a year.
Right.
Found this the other day. Found out that I was doing ITEL report. I was doing the ITEL right. I was inputting the price wrong in exact. And I mean, so let's say the exact price is 250. I get the ITEL price back. It says 109 for the shingles. I was going in the line item on the estimate and putting in 109. I'm like, man, that just dropped me 10 grand. No. Oh my God. I found out this is the other day. I found out that you're supposed to go into in the estimate items on the top, go into components, and you put that ITEL price in where it has the material, which is the shingle only. And half the time, that shingle only price is like 120, or it'll be less than that. And then I'll put in the price. My claim went from $5,100 or whatever to 8,000. I was like, oh my God. I've been screwing myself for a year. I mean, that's a whole who I was doing tile roofs in Arizona doing that with the ITEL. And the
Right.
claim coming out to 30 or $40,000. Well, when you talk about that big of a price difference, that's probably a 50, 60, $65,000 claim now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So just I want to stop you there because I want to explain what you just said to those that
yeah,
are listening or watching, right? ITEL tells you what the material cost,
yep.
not what the line item, including labor and nails and all the material,
Mhm.
everything else that's included. It's just telling you what the material cost is. And I would imagine when you looked at that, the material cost wasn't that much different, right? When you went into the components.
Not too much. Not
Right.
too much.
Not
A
too
bit.
much. A
Not
bit,
not enough to make a
but
big difference. But yeah,
exactly. But
on the
still,
end.
all the labor and all of the all the rest of that stuff is still part of that line item.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was cutting them down by a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Forget about the fee schedule. I was like, oh my God. Oh, whoa. I cut this by 10 grand.
And all
And the manager said they're probably the desk adjuster, somebody's fixing it on the back end, and we don't know about it
right.
because they know, you know.
Well, and
Um,
hence the reason, shoot me an email when you find this out so I don't do it for an entire year.
yep, oops,
Right.
and it's okay. I'm kicking myself because I ran. Oh my God, I've run 300, 400 claims and I've probably done it to every single one. That's probably, I mean, we're talking a lot of money that's not in my pocket, which is
Yeah.
fine. But I learned, and guess what? I've been going in there and doing that every single time now.
So you graduated almost a year ago this month,
April 20th.
April 20th. So you have not even been in the field for a full year yet. You've run, what'd you say, over 400 claims or so?
Uh, Close to that, something like that when you combine Xactimate,
Right.
whatever else.
But
Yeah.
I want everybody to know, Justin, this is why I like you so much. So graduated Kentucky, back to Texas, ran Texas, went to Arizona, ran claims in Arizona, back to Texas, back to South North Carolina,
Hmm.
and then back to Texas.
Yep.
You are a true cat adjuster.
I bought my truck March 5th of last year. It's got 37,000 miles on it. I bought it brand new, 0 miles on it, 4 miles on it, for being
Wow.
specific. So it's got between 35 and 37,000 miles on it right now. And from November to February, I didn't drive the truck much at all, except to the gas station and errands. So, yeah, that's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it was to Arizona and back for school, and then ran all around Texas, and then ran to Arizona for a monsoon that happened. Then I did Hurricane Beryl, and then I went. Oh, where was I? Oh, at first I was up in Kentucky, all over Kentucky, Indiana, Kentucky, Indiana, I think a little bit in Tennessee, and then yeah, North Carolina. I was in North Carolina a long time. Well, an old adjuster would say it wasn't a long time. I was up there about 8 weeks. And my claims were not in Asheville. I was in Asheville, but my claims were everywhere else.
Right.
I was kind of centered and it was north, south, east, west. So a lot of miles. But yeah, that's a lot of miles. It's a good write-off, by the way. Anybody's wondering, yeah, I was about
Right. At
12.
65 cents, I pretty much wrote off the truck this year.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But I beat the crap out of that thing. I wrecked it one time, twice actually, if we think about it. But that thing's been through hell.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
So let's shift a little bit here. Let's talk about contractors because I remember you calling me in North Carolina and telling me about some contractor drove up behind your truck and wouldn't let you out. We talked, what was it, a week or so ago about another contractor and
Being goofy. I've got
being
that
good.
on it.
Yeah.
So North Carolina, it's towards the end of the deployment. There's going to be some details that I change a little bit because I don't want to get dry fired by everybody. But so it's a flood claim up in Burnsville, North Carolina. Just YouTube it. It got decimated. It's a small creek, mountain road. There's no shoulder to park, and they've got a bridge 10 foot wide, 20 foot long that goes to their house. You got to cross the bridge. So cross the bridge, park. Um, Larger property, the insured's not there. I start doing my flood claim, taking all the measurements outside. Insured shows up 10 minutes later. Um, she lets me in. As she's letting me in, somebody comes and he reverses. He's backing in, big truck. He parks on the bridge. And when he parked on the bridge, I figured he was a contractor, right? I walk up to him, introduce myself, because I'm just, well, let's work together. That's my mentality is like, let's just get it done. This is what I saw so far. He goes, okay. And I said, I'm going to run inside. I'm going to get my interior photos. It probably won't take, more than 15 minutes, but I'm just letting you know I've got another appointment. I'm going to have to leave soon. And immediately looks at me. He goes, all right, well, I'm probably gonna be, I'll just be a little bit. There's some debris that I'm gonna get from the garage, and we're gonna take it off to the dump. I said, okay, that's fine, but I do need you to park somewhere else. He's passive aggressive. He's kind of stood up. His body language. I didn't like his body language, and I said, well, okay, just make sure that you move your vehicle. And he kind of gives me the side eye. He goes, yeah, we'll take care of it. It walks off. Okay. So uncomfortable. And then I do the interior, and it's a two-story home. And I go upstairs, start taking some overviews, but I notice the insured's gone. I'm like, where did this woman go? Um, and there's no noise. I'm up the mountains, it's real quiet. I'm like, this is weird. And so I call her and trying to ask her, like, do you have any other concerns with the interior? I already know there's not going to be a second story, right? And she's like, well, I'm about 5 minutes away. I'm at the neighbor's house. I'll be there in about 20 minutes. And I was like, no, ma'am. Like, well, this is our appointment time. I'd like to give you a brief overview of all the damages and so on and so forth. And so I get off the phone. I take a couple overviews. I'm uncomfortable. I walk out. Nobody's nearby. I'm like, what the heck? So I start walking over to my truck. I'm going to put my stuff in my truck. I'm getting ready to leave. And she walks up and I start telling her everything, the spiel. I tell her what I found. Do you have any other concerns, ma'am? And she goes, well, what about my roof? I've got some wind damage on my roof. Now, the way we were handling this the entire time was I can do a full inspection of everything, flood, wind, whatever it may be, and then separate them. And the insured would have to file a separate claim, and then it would get sent back to me, and I could write for it.
Right.
Too easy. Well, I'm uncomfortable. I'm not getting on that roof. I need to leave. And I didn't say that to her, but I said, Unfortunately, it is a separate coverage. It is a separate claim. I took some photos of your interior on the second floor, but in order for us to do a second inspection, I would have to receive the second file. And at that time, she kind of gets irritated, and the contractor walks up, and he's a burly guy, older, looks like long hair, gray hair, ponytail, goatee, Vietnam. He looks like a Vietnam vet. He's open carrying. Guns don't scare me. It's normal. And he goes, "What's the problem?" And I was like, "Well, this is the situation." Repeated myself, what I told her. And I said, at this time, the inspection's over. If you guys have any other concerns, they'd have to be addressed in a separate claim. And he looks at me. And I said, I do have another appointment to get to. I'm going to need you to move He still hasn't moved. I'm still blocked. So I need you to move your vehicle. She's to my right, he's to my left, and he looks at me. He goes, I'm not moving my truck until you get on that roof and do your goddamn job. And it felt real quiet. And I looked at him, and this is where I changed my words a little bit. I educated him on the current situation. And then I said, by the time I get in my truck, if you're not out of the way, I'm going to move you. And he looked at me. I had said two things to him. And when I said that, he reared back and he kind of looked at me. And he's just got this look in his eye that let's go. He didn't care. He wasn't scared. I'm not very intimidating, but his posture, he had his hand on his firearm, and I'm like, this is it. This is where this is gonna go. And he takes his hand off his gun and he goes, "All right." He goes, "We'll take care of that for you." And I told him, I said, "I'm gonna walk backwards to my truck," and I repeated, I said, "If you're not out of my way, I'm gonna make a way." And I get in my truck. I walk backwards to my truck, and I floored it out of there. I left skid marks on that driveway. I was gone. Get out of the driveway. Called my manager immediately. The cops weren't going to do anything up there. Called my manager immediately. Told him what happened, and he put a note in exact. And never heard anything else on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I only, well, if I ask you, have you had more than those? And you said, yeah, I've had 5 of them, then I would say it was you. But,
right.
right?
I've had a couple of goofy ones. That's
Goofy
the
ones, but not. And
Yeah,
the
I was
thing,
like, oh,
the thing of, as an adjuster, there are times where we will get in those situations. I during Katrina, um, I had two good old boys standing down there while I was inspecting the house, and I inspected the roof and everything got done. And I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like, there really wasn't that much wind damage. And he said, "You're gonna buy my roof." I'm like, "Well, sir, let me explain to you how this works." And I'm being real cordial. And like you said, both of them got aggro. And they're like, "Boy, you're going to buy that roof or you're going to end up in the bayou." And I looked at them and I said, "Okay, I'll buy that roof." And they were like, "Okay."
oh, okay,
And
right.
then I left. But the same thing. So what you just said that I want everybody to know, Justin, is de-escalate, walk backwards, get the heck out of there as quick as you can, and then call your manager and report it immediately.
The sentiment up
Immediately.
there was I did 83 claims, 82 of them were fantastic. The people were great, they were understanding. There's a lot of problems in the media,
Yeah.
not with just adjusters. 60 Minutes did a harping on us. And then, you know, the
Just
media portrayed FEMA in a way. I mean, there were signs up there. I had a cop. I did a police officer's house. I had a badge on, my emergency license and everything from North
uh-huh.
Carolina. And I did a police officer's house. He's going to take that badge off. He goes, we've got, and this is up in Black Mountain. And so good old boys. And he said, man, yeah, there's boys running around in military fatigues and pickup trucks, and they're stopping and they're putting people up. They're putting guns on people. He goes, I responded to a call the other day where they put guns on the National Guard. They were up in Pensacola, not Florida, Pensacola, which is Burnsville, North
Uh-huh.
Carolina. They were just mucking out a building. They had buckets and they were pulling mud out of a building. And I won't say they were militia because we don't know. They're military aged males in the
Yeah.
military. And so I hear about that. And then I believe you told me somebody got ran off of a property. And then my situation happens and there's no self-service. It was spotty.
Yeah.
Um, but then that happens. I'm like, okay, it's just me. It's just me.
Uh-huh.
So, um, and I personally don't think I could have de-escalated them without telling them that it's not just you up here.
Yeah.
And I've never had that problem again.
But
Hopefully I
you
don't.
must have de-escalated enough to get the guy to move. So,
Yeah, well,
you know.
it was,
But yeah,
we run.
there's I think just a real quick, and I do not want to talk about politics or religion ever,
No, yeah,
but things got really, really weird. And it happened to Katrina,
hmm
right?
that was horrible.
It does happen where the media explosion happens, or I remember in Florida, I was the four hurricanes in '04 or whatever it was, but the public adjusters there were going up and down the streets and telling everybody that their insurance company was trying to rip them off.
Yeah,
So we were continually in an adverse position that by the time we just walked up to the door because
yeah,
somebody said something, so therefore you're the bad guy.
yep,
The reality is we're the guy with the paycheck.
yep.
I'm here to fix your stuff and I'm going to find everything I can possibly. And that explanation that, look, I'm an independent. I look at
hmm
how much damage I write for, not how much damage I don't write for. So therefore, I'm going to be looking for everything that's possibly damaged due to this cause of loss. I'm
Yep,
not going to remodel your house, but I will take care of everything that happened due to this loss. And that always worked for me, except for that one time. And it sounds like in this time,
right.
you know,
And it is what it is, what it is. It's in one of my managers, uh, whom I give them. The way the chain of command worked with us there is I had a team lead and then the cat managers. And so I told my team lead and I gave a brief overview to the managers. And I was on the phone with them the same day I was talking to them about that 10-12 roof and I was out there. And they said, "What was the full story?" And I told them the full thing. They're like, "That's not what you told us when we were there." I said, "Well, I told, so and so, he knew the full details." They're like, "Okay." And you know, he said, "Just wait until you get a gun pulled on you." He goes, that's your baptism." Like I was like, "No, no, no, like we don't need that." Like, no, 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 we had enough. So it's funny. It's not, but it kind of, it was some humor, but he wasn't Joe. He was pretty serious. But in especially in today's world where information spreads so fast,
yeah,
both misinformation and proper, and it just hurts. I don't know. It hurts everybody.
yeah,
But on the I'll say something positive is that place, North Carolina, changed my life. Not just because of Hurricane Helene, but the miracles that I witnessed, that affected so many people, even adjusters. I know an adjuster who it changed his life so dramatically that he was living in, he knows who he is, he's listening to, he lived in Miami, Florida his whole life. And he already has moved and is living in Asheville.
Nice.
Uh, got a house, and he's a celebrity down there, um, because he's a food guy. And when he was down there, when we were down there during the catastrophe, all of these places were shut down or destroyed. And when they were slowly opening up, he would go to these places and leave just these 15 paragraph reviews on these places and brought them business. Um, and the Charlotte Inquirer wrote an article on him. It's like their big newspaper. And so he's real popular down there. And so that's just one of the many positive things that came out of this.
Yeah.
That was the majority of the experience out there was nothing but positive. I don't want to leave it on the contractor got
That's
crazy.
so awesome. Thank
No.
you for that. Because I'll tell you, the people the people in the South are awesome, period. But um, so much good comes out of catastrophes like that. You know, having done Katrina for 13 months and all the hurricanes and tornadoes and all the rest of the stuff, it really is the probably the best thing that I could say. I mean, the most rewarding thing for me to go and 98 people that you talk to are just so appreciative and so thankful. And you can just, yeah, there's a lot of places I would think of that I thought when I was out there was Mitchell, Nebraska. Never heard of Mitchell, Nebraska. Cool town, very cool people, great barbecue house. But my problem was anything that's east of the Rocky Mountains has humidity.
You're not lying.
So I'm being growing up in California and living in Arizona. I'm like, yeah,
We
that
grew
might
up in
be
the
a
same
beautiful spot,
area.
but I'm not even going there.
Yeah, we grew up in the same area, Cali, so I know the exact same area.
Right?
So I know what you mean. It's like Houston or Texas in general. Right now it's March, and the other day I was like, God, I was
Yeah.
grumpy, and I did barrel in Houston. I was like, I won't, I don't know. You have to pay me a lot more than what I got paid last time to go down there. Not because of the crime or the people trying to steal stuff out of the back of my truck when I was on a roof or anything like that, but the humidity was pro most likely the worst part.
Yeah.
Houston, not fun. Houston
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
I was in downtown Houston. That place sucked.
I did
But
Houston. I did Hurricane Ike in Houston for, I don't know, a couple, 2 or 3 months, and it was brutal for sure. Hey,
yeah.
before I let you go, because I don't know, we're probably coming up on time here. Um, Right before we started talking, you were talking about the current weather. So we're doing this, what, March 15th?
Yep.
So what are you seeing that's out there right now?
I am a huge weather nerd, man. I'm bad.
You've been looking at that the whole time I've been talking to you, haven't you?
Yes, sir. The whole time it's pretty bad. It's a terrible addiction. I've always been a weather junkie. Tornadoes and thunderstorms have always lightning. It's just it's always been a thing. So like Cali, you don't get that much. You do,
Right.
but not really. So right now I'm watching probably a pretty historical tornado outbreak that's taking place in Missouri, Mississippi, and here shortly Alabama. Last night was pretty bad. I was up till 3 a.m. watching it last night. I mean, I watched it live, the Storm Chaser. Everybody's watched Twisters and, well, maybe not, but Twisters and the new one that came out. So there's a guy named Reed Timmer. The directors of this movie followed him. They rode with him for 6 months, and the whole persona of that movie is based on him. And he's a real guy. He's college educated. He's not just something, he knows what he's doing. And last night I physically watched him drive his truck into a tornado, a major tornado that killed people. That people ended up dying last night. He drove his vehicle into the tornado and was trying to shoot GPS and other technology in these rockets up into the tornado to start understanding the vortices of them. because we don't understand tornadoes, plain and
Right.
simple. We don't know about them until they're either already happening or already have happened,
Right.
which, and so it's pretty cool. But as of right now, there's a lot. There's 10, 10, 10 tornado warnings, which means there's rotation. We don't know if it's a tornado on the ground or not. And
Right.
there's 3 PDS tornadoes going into a town in Mississippi. And what that means is these are dangerous tornadoes, large tornadoes that are physically on the ground and about to hit a city.
Wow.
So I'm a huge nerd. Oh, I could go all day, dude. I'm bad.
Wow. Well, you know, I always used to tell everybody my whole career before we had technology and all the rest of that, that it was sometime around the middle of March that stuff started heating up. Although, you know, for a decade of my adjusting, these March storms started in Texas.
Yeah.
Right? That's where the jet stream and the Gulf Stream would be in
Yep.
Texas. So my first storm almost every year was somewhere around Texas, Oklahoma. But
Yep.
now these last several years, they're moving farther south, they're moving farther east,
Yep.
kicking off in crazy
They're
places. And
they're
yeah,
they're talking about, because you can look up Tornado Alley and it'll show a map. Um, they're talking about um, officially shifting where
Tornado
Tornado
Alley.
Alley
Really?
is. It's shifted that much. And come May, April, May is when we'll get, at my house specifically, we'll get hammered. Those Temple tornadoes went right. I mean, the the thunderstorm that produced those 6 tornadoes in Temple and Waco went over my house. I was in class.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was like, hold on, I gotta make a phone call because my wife had texted me, hey, we gotta get in we gotta get in the closet. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, well, look at the news. I'm like, well, I can't. But
Guy won't
and then
let
you
me. I'm not
and then
allowed to
Guy
use.
Brand would grab my phone and throw it when my wife is on her way to the closet. Guy,
Guy Grant will yell at me. I can't do that.
yeah, you're not getting away with that one. But that's funny. But yeah, no, that's what was happening. You like took my phone. I was like, holy dude. But gotta stay focused.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll learn what we're doing. But yeah, I'm a huge junkie. It's bad. It's an addiction. I love it.
Yeah. We used to
But
call it the Money Channel. It wasn't the Weather Channel. It's the Money Channel.
oh man, that's
In our industry, it's the Money
that's
Channel.
bad. That is bad. Cha-ching. Like,
Yeah.
that's
You know,
bad.
so I can imagine that this probably won't come out for another month or so, but
Right.
I can imagine that from this storm will be the first wave.
Yeah, I'm already on standby.
Yeah, and so you know the new adjusters aren't going to go out on this first wave. They're going to be in the May, June ones that are
I'm
coming
on I'm on
because you're going to go out first, and Jalen and the other guys that the Voss trained adjusters that are out there.
yeah.
So
I'm on standby to go to Alabama.
are you?
Already they called me yesterday. We have joked about it, but I think they're like they're ready for say be ready because they're on weather whatever they call it. They're
Yeah.
on alert. They're
You
on
know,
standby too. So
that's the other thing too is, and you mentioned this right before we got online when we were talking about this. So tornado comes, big tornado. But if
huge.
it goes through the farmland, we're not going out,
Could be
right?
hail. There could be
Right.
hail.
The hail's the good thing. And
Hail's what we do.
that's really what we're looking for is the hail 5 miles on both sides of the
There could
tornado.
be 1,000 last year because I'm a
Yeah.
huge nerd. The largest tornado ever seen on radar at 3 in the morning ripped through the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and nobody knows about it. It was 3.7 miles wide
Wow.
on radar. Nobody saw it. Nobody knows about it. I know about it because I was watching. But the guy is a very well-trained meteorologist, watching now, was like, you saw his tone change. He goes, this is literally the largest tornado that we've ever seen on radar. They had a debris field, which is probably just crops and stuff,
Uh-huh.
concrete stuff, like old buildings that nobody got hit by it, but they had a debris up, I think, 30,000 feet in the air.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
for those that don't know, it's pretty ridiculous. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so
Well,
maybe get
it looks like this may be a good season for you guys. I'm really happy
yeah.
for you.
I'm
And
looking forward to it.
I'm just enjoying my semi-retirement, sitting here talking Guy Grand stories on podcasts with my buddies. So,
Well, I'm gonna be sending everybody, telling everybody get ready for the next step,
right.
which is what you've got coming out. That's exciting because we need it. I mean, and it's not just for adjusters. Oh my God, there's managers that none that I work for. There's managers that are managing that have never been on a roof except to make a training for stability. And she's telling us this is hail, this is hail. I'm like, that's not. We're in the video. I'm like, that's not hail. Or opposite. She's saying this isn't hail. I'm like, that's hail. That's, and
Right.
that company doesn't exist anymore. So, oh yeah, I've got a lot.
Yeah.
I hope they're
Yeah.
listening.
When we come out with the new program, the boss process, I think that will be something that we can scale. It'll be an easier, more affordable kind of project. And it's really just going to be for adjusters that have already been out there. Just how to give them the process that we gave you guys of photo report matches, estimate matches, written report. Describe your
Yeah.
freaking photos. Tell us
Yeah.
what that photo. I mean, it's funny. I'm gonna let you go because we still got 6 minutes. What the hell? But David Lay, right?
Yeah.
My buddy who has been doing file reviews, and he sent me a photo report the other day, and he was like, "You got to check this out." And I opened it up, and every single photo, the first photo said risk. I'll say that.
Oh, dude,
Every
sorry.
other photo said overview.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
Every other photo. No doubt it's an overview. I can tell it's a freaking overview. It's an overview of what?
The close-up of a damaged shingle, it says overview.
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly.
Like, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He's just, and he hasn't been trained. He hasn't been to class. He got some work. And so he's like, okay, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's okay, but dang, like
Yeah.
something's got to happen.
The
Like,
file
you don't
reviewer's
know,
got
you
to
don't
figure
know.
out what that means. Overview of what? So the file reviewer's thinking about it. So yeah, I think I don't know. Um, Even though I remember telling you I was retiring, you're like, you ain't retiring, dude.
Yeah, I said, yeah.
But there's
I was
just,
like, okay.
I think that
Then
there's
you,
so much that can be done for our industry to help adjusters be consistent, which will in turn help file reviewers who have never climbed a roof, like you just said, managers and file reviewers who never climbed a roof, help them understand what it is they're looking at, which will in turn lower the cost for the IA firms and the carriers and everybody else along the way. So,
yep.
yeah,
Hopefully,
um,
take a long time, but hopefully it
yeah.
turns around.
By the time this podcast comes out, it may be in the world, but I'm kind of holding it back until we're sure. So,
Well, that's good. Yeah, I'm excited. It's been, a busy year. Oh man, I'm tired already. Like I did those, I don't know, I did those 30 in 14 days, and I'm staring at the computer last night. I was like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this right now. But,
well,
manager said I'd rather have an adjuster that has some flare-ups than an adjuster that doesn't turn in work. So
right,
I'm like, fine, I'll get it done.
right.
I'll do it.
Well, kiss your baby, kiss your wife, pack your bags.
Yeah, that's right
Alabama
after.
might be coming. Get some sleep. right? Because the world's going to start hitting for you for sure. So, Justin, thank you so much for doing this. Everybody that's out there listening or watching, thanks for tuning in. It'll be more weekly at this point. So it's
Nice.
been really, really fun doing it. And I think, just conversations like you and I just had help people.
Yeah. It's
So,
get that training, get those certs, put yourself out there.
got to, got to.
If you make $150,000 and then your profit is only 30 or 40, you're doing it wrong. Like
Right?
that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what are you doing? Stop staying at the Marriott. I've got a 16-foot, $6,000 camper. Okay. The thing's a prison,
All right.
but I'm not spending $1,000 a week on
On
hotels.
hotels.
There's
Yeah,
so much out there. We got to do more. We got to do
we will.
more.
We will.
There's
Let me do a
much
couple
info.
others and then I'll bring you back.
Right? There we go.
Right? All right.
All right.
Once again, thank you, Justin. Everybody else that's out there listening, thanks.